Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I bring you guys a new video that is going to start a series. So, let's get right into it. I came up with my own questions that go along with this different Pixar movies, and whatever tag you've seen before is completely independent of my own. So let's jump right into it. For question number 1, we have the Toy Story Trilogy: Toy Story, Toy Story 2, and Toy Story 3. Name a book or series that is about coming of age. For this, I'm going to have to go with To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. If you have not read this book, although I'm pretty sure it's a required reading for high school, it basically tells the story of Scout, who is a 5-year-old little girl whose father is a lawyer, and he is assigned to represent a black man who has been accused of raping a young white girl. And because he is black and he's accused of raping a white girl, everybody knows that he will be declared guilty whether he is innocent or not, and it's futile to fight for a case towards. However, Scout's father takes on the case and is very passionate about it, and through the way, there's also some various plot lines, one of which includes Scout and her uneasiness with this guy who everybody knows as Boo Radley, who has been accused of doing very horrible things and is just deemed very, very weird and very awkward. Nobody really knows him, and throughout the story, this represents her coming of age arc as she goes from being really uneasy towards this guy to kind of finding her way through to being less judgmental about people in general. Question number 2, we have A Bug's Life, and this, I feel like, is the movie that everybody forgets. It's a Pixar movie because it kind of seems, at least to me, very meh, very underwhelming. And for that, I have Name a Meh book. I'm going to go with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. I thought this book was alright. It was pretty meh. It wasn't too bad, but it wasn't anything that was overwhelmingly good. I didn't feel like the plot was very well developed. I felt like the characters were kind of meh. I didn't like Dumbledore. I didn't like Snape. I didn't really care for Ron. I didn't really care for Harry. It was kind of meh. For question number 3, we have Monsters, Inc. and Monsters University. And for this question, name a book that is about an unlikely friendship or bond. For this, I'm going with One of Us is Lying by Karen A. McManus. If you don't know what this book is about, it's basically that these 5 kids are in detention. One of them dies throughout it, and the other 4 kids that didn't die are declared suspects. And basically, you would think that if you are declared suspects of this murder, that you wouldn't want to be in any sort of contact with these people. But we have Cooper and Addie, who are very, very close, and then we have the other 2 characters, which also become pretty close throughout the book. And it was a very entertaining book for me. I don't read a lot of mysteries, so it was pretty entertaining. And the friendships were kind of pretty out there because I would like to be as far away from people that I'm accused of committing a murder alongside with. So it was pretty weird. For question number 4, I have Finding Nemo / Finding Dory. And for that question, we have an epic adventure or journey. For this, I'm going to go with any of the books in the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. I was also going to go with any book by Rick Riordan, but I've only pretty much read this series. I read the first book of the Heroes of Olympus series. I started the second book, but I didn't finish it. But it wasn't because I didn't like it, it was just because I didn't have time. But I have read these books, so I can tell you, filled with adventure to the brim. Question number 5 is for The Incredibles, a book that surrounds itself around characters who have superpowers. And for that, I'm going to go with The Darkest Minds by Alexander Bracken, which I believe was advertised as like an X-Men, like for like dealing around children or like teenagers, and it's kind of like that. Basically, there's like this plague that killed a bunch of kids off, and the ones that didn't get killed off had these like super abilities given to them that correspond to 5 different colors. You can either be really smart, which, okay. You can have telekinesis, which is blue. You can have fire powers, which are red. You can have mind control abilities, that's orange. Or you can have control over electricity, and I believe that's yellow. And it was pretty entertaining to get to learn about all these different abilities that the kids have and how far they can push them. Moving on. For question number 6, we have Cars, Cars 2, and Cars 3. Name a book or even a book series that is about rags to riches. Now there are 2 ways that this question can be interpreted. The first way is you can obviously talk about a character that goes from being super high in life to basically being a rock bottom. Or you can talk about a book or a series that started off really good or started off promising and ended kind of meh or bad. For this question, I'm going to have to go with The Lunar Chronicles by Maurice Meyer, and I'm going to put all these books down because they're heavy. Let me tell you why this series was kind of meh overall for me. I really liked the first book, Cress. It was okay. It was meh. It was like a 3-star book. The characters were okay. The plot was alright. The plot twist was predictable. Some parts of it were kind of cliche and cheesy, but it was alright overall. Next, I read Scarlet, and it was good. It was a lot better than Cress, in my opinion, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Some of the characters were really obnoxious, but I still liked it a lot more than I liked Cinder, and it was looking promising. Really promising. And then I read Cress, and I absolutely loved it. It blew itself out of the park. It was no comparison to any of the other books. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. The characters were great. The plot was fantastic. And it was such a high note, and I was so excited for the finale. Then I picked up Winter, and it was boring. It was slow. It was an 800-page behemoth that could have been cut down to half of its size. Winter was creepy, but I liked her. But it was like, I needed more from the series. It was so, Cress was amazing, and then I got this book. And it was like a 2.5 stars for me, and I was so disappointed. So that's my rags to riches, because it had such a good promise, like after book 2, or even during book 2, and then it gave me this. Sorry. Question number 7 goes to Ratatouille. Name a character who has an unusual hobby or talent. For that, I'm going to have to pick Brimstone from The Daughter of Smoke and Bone. What I'm about to discuss might be considered a spoiler, so I would advise you to mute the video if you haven't read this book and you want to read this book until I put this book down. So basically, there's this character who is named Brimstone, who we know is pretty weird. He's pretty weird, but we find out later in the book that Karoo collects teeth for him. We already knew that. But she collects teeth for him because he likes to, I don't know, he likes to, like, for magical properties, and it's just so weird. And, like, out of all the things you could be good at doing, you're just good at crafting necklaces of human teeth to grant people wishes, or to be of, like, magical aspect thing. I can't even describe you what he does because I didn't even like this book. So for question number 8, we have Wall-E. Name a book set in a futuristic setting. And that is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is a good sci-fi book. It's so fantastic, and it has all the good sci-fi things. It has spaceships, it has like time travel, it has wormholes, it has planets, it has spacesuits, it has all of these good things. It has super advanced technology, super advanced AI, very creepy AI, and it's a fantastic book. Very, very technologically advanced. For question number 9, we have Up, a character who was an unexpected villain. For that, I'm gonna have to go with Peter Pettigrew, or however you say his name, from introduced in the prison of Azkaban, and if you don't know the story, this might be a spoiler, but I assume that most people have read Harry Potter at this point. If you haven't, mute the video until I put the book down. Basically, throughout this whole book, we think that the whistleblower to telling Voldemort where the Potters were hiding from was Harry's uncle, Sirius Black, who was in Azkaban for X many years. But it turns out that it was Peter Pettigrew who was the Potter secret keeper, and he was the one that was a whistleblower to Voldemort, and he was the one that got the Potters killed, essentially. And I wasn't expecting that. Question number 10, and this is when I'm going to start running out of fingers. We have brave, or a strong female character. For that, I'm going to have to go with Nemesis from the Diabolic, which I'm currently in the middle of reading. She is very badass, she's very strong, she's very determined, she lets nothing get in her way, she's very level-headed, and throughout the book, she also learns to come in terms with her humanity in a way, because Diabolics are not supposed to have any emotions, and I think that is the strongest part of her, because she doesn't let herself be brought down by these things, rather she embraces them and just considers them to be making her stronger. So she's definitely one of the strongest female characters I've ever read. Question 11, I'm just gonna have to do this now. We have Inside Out, one of my personal favorites, and for that question we have a book that has a very good portrayal of mental illness. I'm going to have to go with It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini. Basically, It's Kind of a Funny Story deals with a young man who plans to commit suicide on a Friday night, and right before he leaves, he calls, I believe, 911, and then he's redirected to a bunch of different numbers, and he ends up walking himself to the hospital, where he is admitted into a adult psychiatric facility, because there's no room in the pediatric facility, and there he kind of encounters all these different people, including this girl who cut her own face with scissors, and I think it does a very good job at portraying mental illness and how it affects teenagers. For question number 12, we have The Good Dinosaur, and the question is a book that was set in the past. For that, I'm going to have to go with a tearjerker, which is The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. It takes place during the Holocaust, and we have two little boys, one of which his dad is a Nazi official and is very, very close to the inner circle of Hitler's people, because he is eventually visited by Hitler later in the novel. And we have this other young man who, I believe they're like 8 and 7 or something like that, and the other young man, he is behind the gates of a concentration camp, and they basically formed this friendship, and it's a very beautiful story about how friendship knows no boundaries, and how kids don't carry really a lot of evil in their heart because they haven't been exposed to that many experiences. It's a very beautiful story, and it takes place in 1942. For the last question, question number 13, we have Coco, a diverse book, either in culture or just characters. For that, I'm going to have to go with the memoir, and that is going to be Night by Elie Wiesel. And this book also takes place during the Holocaust, and we have Elie Wiesel, who was a survivor of the Holocaust, and he tells a story about how he got into camp and what happened during camp when he was, I believe, 15 or 16 years old. And a lot of the things that I got out of this book were very positive, and one of them was really seeing the Jewish culture, because it's really different from what I expected. I don't really know what I expected exactly, but it was really entertaining to read about a culture that's different from my own, about the way that they treat religion, and just like the way they carry out their everyday life. It was very informative, and it was also a tearjerker like the previous book, which both deal with the same subject matter. That is it for today's tag, you guys. Let me know if you would like me to continue on with the series, and what other tags you would like to see from me by commenting them down below. Also, make sure to subscribe and hit the thumbs up button so that I know you like videos like this, and to keep making more. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with me today, and I'll see you guys later.